All right. I plan to do a little bit more with these in the future with regards to presentation. Right now we're just kind of like diving into it. Whenever the time comes, there's not like a video open or fancy graphics or anything like that, which is funny because I come from a this broadcast TV background where you have to do that. Where I've punched live shows and I've done all kinds. I've done newscasts. I've done you name it. And this is the age of the interwebs. So we're sort of jumping into it here tonight with Frank Parker Jr. And for those of you who don't know who Frank is, well, let me tell you, Frank has been involved with fan films for a long time, off and on. He's started just recently his second fan series, and Frank, the first one you started sort of took on a life of its own.
Hmm.
Um, Tell me about how you got into fan films.
You know, it. I'm a convention goer, and we have a convention in Charlotte, North Carolina, from where I'm living right now, called Con Carolinas, and I was on the con staff. I was con chair for a couple of years. I was assistant con chair. My wife Donna, who most of the people out here know me, she was doing registration. That's where we met, and that's where we got married. We met in 2006 and got married in 2007. We were the 3 o'clock panel. However, one year, Farragut came, and I was con chair that year, and I got to know John Broughton and Michael Day. And it was funny because I really did not start off with Farragut. I started off because of Michael Day's association at the time with Lee Gartrell, when
Hmm.
Lee Gartrell was doing Romulan Wars. So I had, Donna had made me a jacket, uh, Federation Admiral's jacket for Enterprise. And Michael saw that and he says, Lee might want to use you in the film. So I got in touch with Lee and I played for a couple short episodes Admiral Sam Black, who is
Okay.
my great grandfather or great great grandfather for Admiral Sam Grissom.
Okay.
So I've worked that into it. So I did a couple of those, and then there was a Trek Atlanta with Eric Watts one year. Well, later on that year, and I went to it to meet Michael Bednar. And
Hmm.
Michael Bednar and I really struck up a real good relationship. And I went down to Kingsland, Georgia. And at that time, this is when we were at the St. Mary's sets before we moved to Kingsland. This is when we were shooting A Price of Anything. And I got involved. Didn't take too much. They went, okay. And for the next 2.5 years, I drove every other weekend, 5.5 to 6 hours down and back to help build those sets down in Kingsland after we got out of there. So because I was involved with Farragut and I did a lot of the building or helping with the building and stuff like that, Michael Bednar gave me the opportunity to start Dreadnought Dominion. I said, I kind of like to do this. And we shot the first 2 films in Kingsland, Haunted and Anchors Aweigh, and we were off and running. Well, because of certain things that were happening at that time, and I'm not really going to go too deep into it. We all know the history, what happened with Kingsland. I found myself without sets to be able to shoot on. So I got pretty discouraged and I kind of dropped out of, doing fan films after that, which I love doing.
Hmm.
I'm very thankful that Gary and Randy took it over and kept running it. I'm very happy that Vance gave them the push to continue doing Dreadnought because they're doing great. And as a matter of fact, I was they just came up to see the sets a couple of weekends ago. when they were shooting, and it was fantastic. So when I decided to come back to fan films about 2, 3 years ago, it's been that long again.
Yeah.
Uh, I happened to say to Gary and Randy, I said, I'd like to come back. And I said, I really can't take over because you guys have been doing just a great job. I mean, I'll be a cameo admiral here and there because you sent me off to Starfleet Academy. And he said, yeah, that would be fine. And then I started thinking about it. And I said, I don't want to just be a cameo admiral. I want a series again. And thus, Crossroads was born. And I said, well, I was the first one to have a Dreadnought in any fan series because I don't like conventional. So I said, it ain't going to be a conventional ship this time. So I found a Star Trek Online Gemini class. Said, don't want to rely on any studio. So I said to my mother-in-law, mind if I build a I build a bridge in your garage? And there I am.
So let's go back to, okay, you went over to work with Farragut. Now you got to play a Romulan in a couple of Farragut films, correct?
Yeah, I was a Romulan in Price of Anything, and
Okay.
I was also a Romulan, a very quick scene for Conspiracy of Innocence. I was in there for one real brief. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that Romulan bridge is, I was not, let's put it this way. I put a lot of time on that bridge. As a matter of fact, I had the center counsel, Michael Bednar, gave it to me. And the only reason I don't have it today is I brought it back to a Farragut Fest, the last one, to have it on show. And then things happened, and that's where it stays now.
Okay. How did the idea for Dreadnought Dominion start? What was the genesis of that?
I wanted to have another fan film that dealt with another different crew. I never really particularly cared for the reinvention of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. I love TOS. I've always been a TOS. I was there at the very beginning. I'm 70 years old. So I was, I grew up with the original Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
We had the uniforms. John Broughton, had made a few of ours. I had the sets right there. And I said, yeah, I want to, get involved with something like this. And Randy Brennan and I were going to community college at the time. That's where we met. And we started, knocking it around. And Randy says, I always wanted to do a little bit of writing. He was always kind of interested in that. So we talked about it, and I had known Gary Davis from a Star Trek fan club that he had actually started, which was called the Maquis. I was in Starfleet International, and I ran into him from there, and he told me about the Maquis, and I became a member of the Maquis. So he had a story that was written. It was called "Who Haunts This Ship?" And Randy kind of took it, and Randy and I kind of worked it around, and we came up with Haunted, which actually we wrote first. Anchors Away was the kickoff. That came second. But what I wanted was something to show that I was a Star Trek fan. I loved it. That's why it came into fruition.
I think that there have been Star Trek fan series that have done a good job of revisiting Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, but I think what's really neat about what you're talking about with, okay, we're gonna do a different crew, we're gonna do a different kind of ship, we're gonna do something else, is fans really like to explore the wider universe a little bit more. And you mentioned Starfleet International, for example. one of the things I was in Starfleet International. I'm back in it now, but I was in Starfleet International a lot when I was a teenager, and people had personas, like in ranks, and
Oh yeah.
you'd make a story for whatever your Star Trek persona is, and people cosplay, and that's what you do. You try to carve out your own little corner of the Star Trek universe, and I think that's why I think ultimately fan films are an extension of that desire just to play and to carve out your own portion of the universe. Um, what you so you make those two films, and it was really just the set issue that caused you to take a hiatus.
Right.
What really was like the part where you said, I really want to go back. I haven't lost my passion for this.
I started rewatching Dreadnought Dominion, and I saw where It'd be perfectly honest, I saw where Randy and Gary were going. And I saw what they did with the help of Vance, doing the first two films, and saying, dang, I wish I had known that at the time. But I was so, with just so many things going on at that time. I said, I never lost the desire to do it. As a matter of fact, if I probably would have gone back with a little bit of pulling my fingers at the time, but I was being stubborn on a couple things. So, it happens. But I saw it and I said, yeah, I want to get back into it. I enjoy the acting. I enjoy the fun. I enjoy the building. I enjoy the behind the scenes. That's one of the things that I eventually want to do is something like what you do is, you act a little bit, but more behind the scenes stuff. Because that is the creative side of it. I mean, I'm learning a little bit about editing right now. I'm doing some editing with not Premiere, with DaVinci. I'm being taught how to use DaVinci, so I've been playing around with that.
DaVinci is a good choice because a lot of people are migrating to that now.
Yeah.
It's weird. It seems to ebb and flow, where there's one editing program that's kind of the hot thing right now, and a lot of people are, yes, Keith, DaVinci Resolve. It's a great editing program. A lot of people are starting to use it now. I'm still hanging on to Premiere Pro because it's what I have to use for work and that sort of thing. But it's interesting. I was watching The Ready Room the other day, and they were talking about when they shot those two or 3 days on the Enterprise D bridge, that Terry Matalas directed those scenes. And Will Wheaton asked him, like, was it surreal for you to be directing, the Star Trek: The Next Generation actors on the Enterprise D bridge? And he was like, I really wasn't thinking about it, because we had so much to do that you're just focused on trying to get the work done. And I sat there and was like, I so identify with that.
I was just going to say, I worked with you, down at Kingsland about a month ago, and I'm sitting there going, and I was told by a friend of ours, don't bother him when he's in the zone.
I get pretty intense, and because for me, I'm not thinking about this is the last scene of Avalon universe or this or that. It was like I was worried about the money we were spending, the amount of time we had in the day, all the things we had to get done, make sure we get this line, make sure we get that shot. And you just like, you're so focused, you're not even thinking about, I'm on the bridge doing this, I'm on the bridge filming this scene. That's like, when you write it, you fall in love with it. When you write it, you see the film in your head and you're like, this is so amazing, and I want to go make this. And then whenever I'm filming something, I'm always like 2 projects past whatever I'm filming. So it never seems to hit me while I'm filming like, this is surreal, I'm watching this come to life. Except for the Tales from the Neutral Zone we shot on that Monday and Tuesday, we were able to slow down enough on those for that to be like, this is so great. We're seeing this come together. But it's like normally when I get into the editing is when I sit there and see the film materialize. I was talking to Tyler the other day and Neil about a year ago we shot a scene, and there was at Kingsland a full like calendar year ago, and there was so much stress going on behind the scenes. I barely remember even shooting that scene, but I really enjoyed putting it together in the editing. And so it's like it's a weird thing. And you talk about acting. The only reason that I'll act in these films is just because I want to gain the perspective of what it's like to be an actor, so I can relate better. Um, and I'm actually the holdup on my projects right now because I'm like being insistent that I lose weight before we shoot my scenes, and I'm not doing a very good job. So
Neither am I. Yeah, it was funny. I was watching some of the comments there, and Paul from King's Lane said, "Yeah, exactly. That's the one I was looking at."
yeah, I wasn't very good about that. They have to make me yeah, they have to make me eat. Somebody has to stop me normally, and I don't take a break. I don't stop the
No,
entire time we're going, because if I'm not working, then nothing's basically getting done.
and I can
Um,
attest to that. To anybody who doesn't believe what he's saying, I watched him in action, and he's telling the honest to goodness truth.
yeah, I get overheated. There was a gosh, we did a shoot in October of 2020, where we were outside. Might have been early November. It was either late October or early November, and we were outside, and it was midnight, and I was going full tilt like I normally do, and everybody's freezing and shivering and in their breath, and I'm like really comfortable. I'm like, this feels great, because I'm like overheating and working, but it's so cold that I'm not actually overheating. I was like in this equilibrium of all of that. It was a weird experience. So let's get back to kind of your adventures. So you made the decision to come back. How has that journey been over the past 2 years or so for you?
Well, it has been good. I happen to have had the one of the biggest fortunes and the biggest joys of my life has been, and I'm going to say this: I love him dearly. I've hooked up with Vance Major. No productions, no budget productions, and he and
And
I.
everybody knows Vance is who inspired me to get into this in the first place.
Yeah, and
Go. Sorry to interrupt.
oh,
Go
no,
ahead.
no, no, no. And he's one of the ones when I said, I want to build that bridge in the garage. Yeah, go ahead and do it. Sure, Frank, let's go ahead. No carpentry skills at all, but build the bridge. And he's been right there with me. And we started doing podcasts and things together, and we really have become quite a cohesive team. He does the writing, I do the acting behind the scenes. It's just been a journey. It's funny because when I started off doing this, I didn't want to get casts from all over the place because I didn't want to have to worry about travel and stuff like that. So I started recruiting people from Bank of America where I work. So half my cast is Bank of America on my team, and others who have, subsequently left the team and gone to other positions, but they've still been on board. My right-hand man here, Jason Hurt, is in the same training area that I am. We're both client education trainers, and so we get to talk a lot. But it's been good. I've had stuff within the Constar universe. I've had stuff that I've been in. Well, now the Avalon universe. I've done.
Yeah, you just sent me. You sent me a cameo for Crisis on Infinite Excaliburs, and then while we were down in Kingsland, you shot 2 different parts. One for Once and Future Captain and one for Tales from the Neutral Zone. I and it was so cool. Like, it was really neat to see you in the different Romulan outfits. You had the chance to have, Kevin do your makeup.
Man, I'll
And
tell you, I want him to be, because well, the next one I can't really say too much about it. You've got an idea what's going on there, but I need some really good ears, which I do have. Yeah, that was great. I wanted to tell a quick story here, because you were saying something
Go
about
ahead.
in the past. Um, Romulan. And I wasn't thinking about this. I don't think I've ever told this before. One of the things that I did in the very past was online simming. And we get together online. This is before the internet was really big. And we would write stories, and we'd be a universe together, and everybody would write their characters. And I always played Romulan. I was always on a Romulan crew. I mean, I've loved Romulan since the day one.
Mhm.
So to play a Romulan, I just did a shot for very similar to what I did for you. I did a shot for Randy and Gary, and when I finished with it, they got there. They said, "Oh, you hit that right on the nose." And I said, "Well, yeah, I just have practice down at Avalon."
Yeah. No, you were a great Romulan in the Tales from the Neutral Zone, film we made. And, I was you kinda almost didn't believe in yourself a minute there, and all of us were like, "No, dude, you got it." And I really loved the interaction that you had with Alex playing Captain Allenby. So it was a really neat thing to watch because, um, one of the things that actors will do for each other is 2 good actors, they'll really feed off of each other, and that's how you create a good performance a lot of times, is just 2 actors getting in a scene together, acting off of each other. Alex really fed her performance off of you. You were able to take something from her performance, and it worked. It was so fun to watch it happen.
I can't wait to see it. To tell you the honest to goodness truth, I really can't. To see it.
So, one thing that I'm curious about is, the Philic ferret thing.
Oh, Phil
Explain
Ferry.
Yeah, explain that for everybody.
Okay, so for those who don't know me, um, Filk is a science fiction type of music. It's science fiction folk music. And Donna and I perform at science fiction conventions as the Nefarious Ferrets. I write some music, and she sings along, and we have a bass player who we have. And, this is something that you find at a lot of conventions is filking. And this, we just get around in a circle and trade songs all night. Some of them are parodies, some of them are real life, some of them are serious. Some of it's just a bunch of, thank you, Ed, just a bunch of people getting together and singing nerd songs. Ferret, well, I have always loved ferrets. I've got 3 right now. And so since 1998, when everybody was coming up with handles, and my original handle Aztec and Lone Star started becoming popular, I said, I got to find something that nobody else in this world's ever going to have. So I became Filk Ferret. I've been Filk Ferret since 1998. And if you Google that, you'll find nobody but me.
Hey, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being yourself, man, being original. Um, so, in all of your adventures, of being involved with fan films, it's amazing what a small world it becomes. That's what I've noticed is that, there are so many of us that, we're from so many different places that without fan films, we never would have known each other. We never would have had the chance to interact or meet or share these experiences. Um, Overall, how is this journey of being a fan filmmaker? How's that changed you and changed your life?
You know, when I started fan films, I was in the dark days of fan films. when everybody was backbiting and everything else.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on back there. And that's one of the reasons, for getting out of something is when it starts being more of a job. It's not as enjoyable. You're fighting fires all the time. Fighting fires is something that you're going to do as a fan filmmaker, but when it becomes to the point where it's ridiculous and it's just when it becomes bullshit. Pardon my French. That is when it's no longer fun.
Mhm.
So I was very, very happy and very ecstatic when I found out that people like Nature's Hunger, George Cayenne, Constar, Avalon, uh, people were working together, Dreadnought, and because I'm going to say it because of Vance. Vance did a lot of that pioneering for that, and I'm really, really grateful that he did. He kept Dreadnought going. He started his own series. He played in Valiant. God knows how many he's been in for Avalon.
He's
Almost,
been in all of them, I think, except for one.
yeah. So he's definitely been that person behind it that his legacy is something that is going to be great. I mean, 50 years from now, if we're still doing fan films, of course, I'll just be sitting up there watching you guys. But if you're still doing fan films, I mean, it's still Vance is going to be the name out there. So my journey has been really, really good because, and I hooked up with Vance, and Vance knows everybody, so it helped me get back into the saddle because I had lost ties with a lot of people at that time, and so relearning and getting back with good friends, and then meeting brand new friends. It's great. It's fantastic. I mean, uh, I mean, I've heard stories about Alec Peters. I mean, I met Alec. He's a fantastic guy. I mean, everybody's got their quirks, but I was down on his sets and I loved it down there. It's just fantastic. It is.
We were just talking right before we came on about Alec was making me laugh really hard earlier today just with a Facebook comment that he made that it was like it was so him. Like we were all kind of dancing around some subject and he just came in and just bluntly laid out, what everyone was thinking. Talking about Vance for a second, he's just got this way of bringing people together.
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, because he has called me at 4 in the morning before, and I'm like, "Oh, no, what's the emergency?" And he's just like, "Hey, brother,
Are you
you
up?
just are you up? You just wanna talk?" But he's got this way of just bringing people together. You're talking about, um, your new series. He's so networked in with people who can edit or people who can, if you need an actor, if you need a CG person, if you need he knows people because he's just reached out and he's met so many people throughout this process. You know, what again, he was so integral to my decision to pull the trigger on what I do because I'm looking at I was looking at what he was doing at the very beginning, and then I was looking at the guidelines, and then I was looking at what he was putting out, and I went, he's figured this out. He's figured out the post guidelines fan film. And I thought this is spectacular. And he was calling me on the phone and saying, you got to do this. You got to do this. And he started this journey for me. And so, to see him bring you back into it, that's great. And I got to be in your film that you're about to release.
Yes,
Uh,
you were.
I didn't even know who I was interacting with. I'm just like sitting in my garage, doing
You
the
know,
part.
and we looked at it, and actually, Vance and I were talking about that, and the interaction between you two is just that way it shows how just knowing how to act and knowing how to relate, you can go back and forth, and if you know what you're doing, it looks so natural on there. And I think you're going to. Well, have you seen it yet?
I have, yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, what did you think of it?
I'm just like, I'm a jerk.
Well, we know that, but I mean, what did you think of it?
I liked it, but my character is such a jerk. I was just like, oh, he's so mean. I'm not really like this, but that's acting, you know. I guess Mr. Austin was in a bad mood that day or something. I don't know. I mean, look, the person that the character Austin is named after is a Tasmanian devil, so you know, he doesn't want to listen to anybody. He's 5, but he doesn't want to listen to anyone.
A quick side note on that and personalities. Vance and I've often said this. When I first came back and approached Gary, Vance did not like me. I was the devil incarnate because I had left them in a lurch. And how dare you try to come back into fan films? This is how Vance felt about me. I had no idea, of course. So anyways, the story he tells, yes, I'm going to throw you under the rug, buddy. I see you out there. Is he says, well, I figured if Gary was going to work with you again, I should reach out. So I get this thing one day. He says, hey, how you doing? I said, not too bad. And we started talking. He says, I'm Vance Major. And I'm going, who the fuck is this? And he says, yeah, I work with Dreadnought Gemini. I said, oh, okay, cool. He says, I also do my own fan film. So he said that he wanted to just throw it out. He said, this guy is going to say no, so I'm not going to have to worry about it. He says, so would you like to be in one of my fan films? I said, really? Sure. He said, oh, shit. Now I got to write him in. And that's how my brother Vance and I really started off. And you see this friction when you see Grissom and Menard together. That's why the friction is, because of the very beginning, real life, you're an idiot.
Hey, when I first saw him, I just saw him posting stuff. I saw him posting in Fan Film Forum. He would post links to his films, or he would post pictures from something he was going to do. And I'm like, who is this guy? And I'm watching these films, and I'm like, this guy's in his backyard. He's in his backyard. And then it's like, wait, is that Pizza Hut in the background? And I was like, he literally just got his friends together and they're making a movie. And I was like,
cool.
I wish I was doing that, like I've always said he was a more courageous filmmaker than me because he just went out and did it. And I was like, man, I'm proud of this guy. He doesn't care. He's just living the dream. And I think I just liked one of his liked one of his films, or commented like, congratulations, and he friended me, and then we were talking on the phone, and so I think it wasn't even very long. I think he encouraged me to make a fan film, and the fan film existed on the internet 6 months later with 250,000 views. Crazy. Ghost Ship.
Yeah, I love that.
You talked about being involved in fan films in 2 different eras. Sort of this old guard era, pre-guidelines. I've heard so many stories over the years about what that was like. What is the experience like now versus then?
The cooperation. I know a couple productions used to have problems getting people doing music and doing sound, and they would be on the rails for ages and ages and ages. people were trying to undercut. People would try to throw productions under the bus. Now it seems, well, no, it doesn't seem. It's people are there to support each other, to be out there and be encouraging. It's sort of like filking in a way. Filk, of course, is not a professional singing outfit. Believe me or not. We will let anybody into a circle. We will let anybody sing. We will let anybody tell a story, some type of performance, because they're sharing. My personal introduction to Filk, I always was that type of person. If I made the wrong chord on the guitar, I would put it up for 6 months and never be shown, again. Filking gave me the confidence to go out and perform like I do now and sit there and make that mistake and go, okay, nobody else saw it, but I know it was there. I think that's how it is now with it. We're encouraging people to go out and do it themselves. And if you make that mistake, what the heck?
Yeah.
Get back on it and write again. And I think that's what the major difference is. We're all supportive now of each other, where before it was everybody was fighting. That's the difference.
It's so crazy, and look, I've seen it. I've seen it in other versions of film. I've seen it in just regular old indie film, and I where I compare the experience was like the practice of martial arts, which is another big part of my life, where it's like you go into the gym at your martial arts school, you're simulating murder. We're choking each other, we're punching and kicking each other in the head, and this is in any other circumstance, somebody's punching you, kicking you, trying to kill you. It's a pretty serious thing, but it's like it's the weirdest thing. You go into this place, you get around some people you like, you have this we call it a free roll, where you get in and you're trying to basically make the other guy say uncle, and one person wins and one person loses, and once the choking and groin kicking and all of that kind of stuff is over with, you're kind of like, thank you for making me better. Thank you for helping me become better than I was yesterday. And the attitude, if you're doing it right, is that the other person, your sparring partner, your coach, whoever it is, those people are not your enemy. Your enemy is you. You're trying to be better than you were the day before. And it was just like, it hit me hard that somehow that mixed martial arts was less competitive than filmmaking. It was just like, this is crazy. Like, everybody wanted everyone else to fail. It seemed like it was like, you'd get into these situations where it was like, well, I didn't want to say this about your film, but that one scene really sucks where you did that. Like, no, you weren't sitting here thinking, oh, should I say something? No, you wanted to find something you didn't like. And creativities can sometimes be hyper competitive because it is tied heavily to ego. Now, we all have that. We all have ego. That's a thing. You know what I mean? But if you take a minute and you learn to just kind of see past that and go, we're all in this together. We could create the coolest expanded little fan universe if we all just work together. And for me, fan films aren't about that. Fan films is like when you're in this hyper competitive, trying to dunk on whoever else environment. And then I went into fan films. For me, I was just having fun. I was enjoying what I was doing. I was living a dream. And when it stopped becoming about this, becoming famous or whatever reasons people get into filmmaking, and just became about having a good time with people you care about. it changed the game altogether. It was a completely different experience. Would you say that that's where we're kind of trying to go today?
You just brought up something I hadn't thought about, and this is why I like discussing this with my friends and stuff like that, like you. You know, I'm in a film community, and we call it a community. I'm in a fan film community now. We weren't a community back in those days, and that's what that is the difference. We are a community now. We're a family. Before, everybody was independent. Now we've gotten together and we're a family. And in a family, you bicker, you yell at each other, but then you come together and you get the job done. Because at the end of the day, you are having fun, you know? And you are trying to do something, and you do want to see your friends succeed, and we're all friends, and that's the thing. We're not trying to outdo each other. We're trying to entertain. I mean, Jose Cepeda has a different type of spot, for Nature's Hungers. You have a different style for Avalon. I have a different style for Crossroads, but they all mix together. They're all Trek. They're all Trek. We're all making Trek, and we're making Trek because of the love of Trek.
How many times have I heard people say over the past 5 years that I've been involved in this? Imagine what we could do if we all just worked together. And
CBS would really be down on top of
us. Yeah. And I've wanted to see that. I've because that's what. Look. So Star Trek is about lots of different people who are from different backgrounds or different even planets, coming together.
Elizabeth, can we all come to your house for next week?
Yeah, right. But it's about all kinds of different people coming together and putting aside their differences. Now, will we as a planet ever be able to do that? Probably not. Because there is some component to human nature that there will always be conflict. Okay, conflict is really the basis of storytelling. But it's wonderful to see these days that so many of us are at least trying to put that kind of nonsense behind us. We can all have our own individual personality in what we do, but at the same time we can all work together and create cool stuff. And I think that's the thing that we've really discovered these days. One thing that CBS was saying when they created these guidelines is that they felt like that fan films had sort of gone outside of the spirit of fandom, that they had become an arms race, a competition, that who was trying to make the biggest fan film or have the most Star Trek actors in it or have the biggest budget or the best VFX or whatever. They felt like that it wasn't, a fan art being made by fans.
Right.
When you have a lot of people who worked on Star Trek behind the camera and in front of the camera involved in a project, you really aren't making a fan film. You're making Star Trek.
Right.
You are if you've got half the cast of Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and stuff in your fan film. It's not. How is that a fan film?
It's not. No.
And I think that we're at a point now where so much of what we make is just legitimately being made by fans, and I think that there's a big degree to which that competition element was genuinely removed from fan films by the guidelines, and it cleared the way for just normal people that wanted to play Star Trek to hang out with each other and do this. And I think that CBS might have been in the right, you know, a lot of people gotten angry at CBS over the guidelines and, oh, they're trying to ruin everything and all of this. I think that they created a new era of fan films that is much more wonderful to be a part of. Are we going to all be making Star Trek Continues and Axanar? Well, probably not, but that's not what matters, and that's not what we want to do anyway.
No, we want to do things like use the Kingsland sets, use my sets, use Randy Lander's sets, you know, even the Axanar sets. To produce our own, what we want is our own universe. I mean, when you look at it, most of our budgets are fairly low or non-existent. But because of everybody working together, a lot
We
of
can do so much more.
because that's the thing, we do have that. I mean, I know you're going to hate me for this. I don't have to go out and buy your camera. You know, even though I've got a D6.
Yeah.
I just got a gimbal for this. You know how that's going to cut down production time?
I actually got in trouble at my day job for shooting so much with my cell phone at work.
Wow.
Because, you know, because I had like, you know, a top of the line iPhone with, you know, really great image stabilization and all that kind of stuff in it. And it was easier. Like I had to do a commercial for like a roofing company where I had to like climb up on someone's roof and shoot guys like, you know, fixing a roof. And I just took my phone up there. I'm like, I'm not going to take this big camera up there.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, it looks to the client like you're just taking, you know, video with your phone. I'm like, well, the phone's taking better video than the big camera, you know.
Well, actually, it is. And, you know, and I found out, you know, I was thinking about it. We went to, I went out and, you know, was going to get a gimbal for the D6. And I said, wait a minute, hold on, I've got a gimbal for this one. And now, instead of, you know, doing those setup shots every time for the close-ups, all I have to do now is walk over with it.
Yeah.
Close up and come back. And how much does that cut off time?
You got to be like Vance and just stick it in someone's face and say, the son of a bitch did it.
Just here, I don't care. Just say the
say
line.
This. It's worth it to destroy the Klingons.
I'll tell you what, you know, it's funny because Gary and Randy are the same when it comes to it. Mm-hmm. Neither one of those two read their scripts until the day they're there. They just they remember it for that scene and then they forget it completely.
You know, let me tell you, in 2022, the very beginning of 2022, Avalon was going through a rough period. We had kind of a rough go of it for a few weeks. Stressful time. And right before everything just kind of, you know, got to a point where we had to change what we were doing, I went down and I shot 2 episodes of Dreadnought with Gary and Randy.
Yeah. Okay.
And I gotta say, I had a tremendous time.
Oh, those guys are a ball.
It was so fun. And like, you know, Brian Holloway showed up. And I mean, everybody had a great time. Kelly Hodges was acting in it and just, you know, taking the place by storm. But then afterwards, we all went to like IHOP and we just sat around and ate pancakes and talked and got to know each other and talked about scripts and just enjoyed everybody's company. And it's one of my most pleasant memories of the entire year last year was just sitting around with the Dreadnought crew, you know, hanging out in IHOP because they're just such good people. And I'm like, this is what it's all about. Really.
We never had drama on the set for Haunted or Anchors Away. We never had drama. We always worked as a family. And that's one thing that Gary and Randy have kept with that. And that's what I'm trying to instill with my crew is that family. And I know Avalon, I could tell by the people you had from Avalon that come back and do stuff for you. It's all the people that we work with and become friends with. it's there. I know the problems you went through because I heard about it. We
Yeah,
talked.
I was like, we never had any drama on our set. I'm like, you're a better man than me.
Yeah.
Because we've gone through that, and um, what can happen is that sometimes you're not as forceful as you should be, or you ignore red flags, or you want to believe people are who they represent themselves to you to be, and
Yeah.
um, you're trying not to be a bad guy or a tyrant, or you want it to be a good experience for everyone, or you're trying to get people involved because you think that they'll have a good time and it'll be positive for their life. And so sometimes you're trying to do the right thing, and then people take advantage of that, and drama happens that way. And that's in a nutshell what happened for us, and we've been very fortunate in that we didn't let it stop us from what we were doing, and that we were able to kind of change our approach and find people who were willing to come in and make a really positive contribution going forward. And it's been a wonderful experience ever since then. And you were on our set for, I think you were there all 4 days.
I was there all 4
Yeah.
days. The only problem I had was with Tyler. I don't know. He's just
Everyone picks on him. No, the problem was me picking on Tyler.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh, I don't even want to go through that scene.
but the great thing about it though is that Tyler will then take that and make it a joke later. He'll be like, "Yeah, you remember that part where?" And then he'll do his impersonation of me, and then he's got everyone laughing at me. So he turns the tables on me, believe me. Um, my favorite parts where he fell asleep in the captain's quarters.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Um,
I
he,
remember that now. Yeah.
well, because I knew for him that the most important part for him was going to be the party, the rap party. But we went directly from the rap party on one film to shooting another film the next day. So he has this rap party, and he's there until 5 in the morning. And I said, today you're going to be the ones that's going to be on set without any sleep. And we lost him about noon. He wandered
Yeah.
into the captain's quarters, and
Just
I wanted I've been asking Ray. I'm like, I want to pay you some money. I'll spend the night in the captain's quarters because maybe that would be cool. I haven't done it yet, but he's like, yeah, sure, go ahead, whatever. He was gonna let me sleep at the studio when we were filming. I asked him about it.
we used to do that all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I asked him about it, and I went to him and I said, Ray, I've got this idea because I got so much work to be done, but I think when I ask you, you're gonna be like, "What, are you out of your mind?" And I was like, "What if I slept at the studio?" And he was like, "Yeah, okay." He didn't care. He's like, it's kind of creepy sleeping there. I've done it, but if you want to do that, all right. He's just so laid back. He's so easy.
he is. Yeah, I like Ray. He's pretty good. Yeah, he's pretty good.
He is a sweet, sweet man. He puts up with all of my impersonations of him. I was doing it in Kingsland when we were shooting there, and he's just like, like he was just kind of like, you could tell he didn't like it, but he was putting up with it. I do that. To be fair, I do that to everybody. There are a lot of personalities in fan films, and several people do impressions of other people. My most notorious is Alec Peters. I do an Alec Peters impersonation that Vance really likes, and I got a request for it at the rap party. That Alex was like, "Do Alec Peters," like. And I couldn't say no. I had to do it. And then we still got Glenn. I do Glenn in front of him,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh yeah, you come onto my set and you do impressions of me in front of me." But he was another person that asked. He was like, do an impression of me, and I was like, "Just so you know, it's 11 o'clock." And he starts laughing because that's what he does. He's always the person letting you're come on, you're wasting time here. So,
Yeah, I enjoyed meeting Glenn down there too. I enjoyed the whole crew down there. I mean, I felt right at home with you guys.
it was a fun experience. I almost died a couple times, but it,
That's that's
that's
okay.
nothing new.
That's normal for anybody who's doing that. I mean,
Um, Gosh, for Agent of New Worlds, we had to find this cave,
mhm.
and we drive
Oh
down to
yeah,
like
I heard about it.
we
Oh,
drove down to like Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and holy moly, it was like we were looking for this specific cave and we couldn't find it. It took all day to find this cave to get two or three shots of it. Literally had to go mountain climbing, almost fell off at one. Well, I did slip and fall at one point, but I didn't get hurt very bad. And then on the way back, I almost slipped where it was really steep, but I caught myself. But it was like, geez, yeah, why are we doing this? But
wasn't that for like 5 minutes worth of a shot?
it was three like 4 seconds each shots, but they were great shots.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
But it was all day and risking death. But it was like we kind of came away with it. Everybody who was there kind of came away with it with sort of the same outlook. Like, that was amazing. That was so much fun. We probably shouldn't have done that.
I can hear that.
And probably won't do it again. But that was fun. It's just, but it's like, man, beats like hanging out at your house doing nothing, being bored, whatever. You go out and you live life, and that's why we do this. Even just the drive to, whether it's Warp 66 or Kingsland, I've got like a ritual for how both trips work, where it's like everyone meets at this place, you stop at these gas stations, you eat at this place here, and it goes. I'm like that, but it's like both, whether it's Kingsland or Warp 66, there's like a ritual to it. And that's been pretty consistent for several years.
You'd better make part of that ritual going to Kingsland next time to stop for 30 seconds for the 30-second tour.
But oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Bucky's, yes. Um, Bucky's is definitely part of that ritual, no doubt.
No, I'm talking about my bridge.
Oh yeah, to stop at your bridge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to do that. I do need to come see it because it is super neat. So we said we were going to talk about Star Trek Picard. So let's talk about Star Trek
Yeah,
Picard for a
most
minute.
certainly. I've just realized, Josh, that you and I are just like Vance and I.
Yeah.
Just boom.
And if he was here, we'd be doing this for 3 hours.
3 hours without a doubt. I've been watching him chime in on the side.
He'd be like, we'd say, what did you think of Star Trek Picard? And he'd be like, so, and then from there, it would be an hour. But he would say some really profound stuff, and he would be right. You know what I mean? But he would, we'd be looking at the ceiling of the meat factory. We'd be hearing the meat whistle the whole time, Yeah. Like every time you talk to Vance, he's at work because he gets bored at work, and you're always here. There's this sound. I don't know what it is, and I've always called it the meat. I've always called it the meat whistle because I don't know what it is. It's just this, and it's like every 10 seconds. I'm like, there's the meat whistle again. Just all the fun Hallmark stuff there. Okay, so like, and let's talk about Picard. We're gonna need the meat whistle to keep us on task with talking about Picard. Okay, so it's done. It's over. We've watched this entire crazy thing. What do you think? Where are your thoughts on not just the show as a whole, but do you think we're going to see Star Trek Legacy? What do you think the future of modern Star Trek is?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm probably, and I've been watching a lot of comments. I'm probably one of the minority. I happen to like all 3 seasons of it.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't care for it. Of course, the first season dealing with the Romulans, I had to be invested in that because that's me. I'm a Romulan. The second season, I was invested with the story with the. I think because of the fact that they did come back to a time and they were answering some of the social issues of the time. Third season was Trek, pure
Yeah.
and simple was Trek. I was a little disappointed that they brought the Borg into it. I mean, Borg is sometimes a little bit overplayed. It's like, to me, please don't hate me, world. Sometimes I feel Klingons are overplayed in Trek. I think that there's too many Klingons out there, too many episodes with Klingons. I think it should be a little bit more. But I think the Borg was a little bit. But I can see the premise, and I can see why they did it, because they were trying to wrap it up with something that happened when he was Locutus.
Right.
Yeah. That they brought in the shapeshifters, if they brought in the Dominion. Yeah, that was kind of cool that they did that. Of course, after watching it and after watching the last scenes, I hope the heck they decide to do Legacy. To paraphrase somebody's post tonight, why do we need to see a Starfleet Academy in Discovery? I never, and I'm going to say this, I never liked Discovery.
Yeah.
I mean, Strange New Worlds and third season Picard are where I think the franchise should go.
I'm trying to find that quote. No one wants effing Starfleet Academy set in the Discovery future. Give me an effing break. What kind of stupid blankety blank idea is that?
Yeah, exactly.
We all know who said it.
Yeah, we all know who said it.
So I'll give you my take. Discovery, it's so frustrating. Because there are lots of things I like about Discovery. There are aspects of it that I've liked. The past few years, I've watched it with the sound off. Like I turn the sound off and I just watch the show with the sound off because I like the beautiful images, but it's just like I don't care about what's going on. Um, Picard, season 3 or season 1 of Picard didn't bother me to the extent that it bothered a lot of other people. I was still able to watch it and enjoy it. There were things about it that were frustrating, but on the whole, I was able to watch it and enjoy the show. Season 2 of Picard, I thought it was a crime against humanity. It was so pointless. I don't even understand why it was even made. It was so like, are we really going to spend an entire season in modern day? Like, are you really going to spend 1/3 of your whole show in modern day? Like, really? Golly, it was just like it drove me crazy. And then this thing with the Jurati Happy Borgs. What makes the Borg in season 4 of Discovery or season 4 of Picard or season 3, wherever we're at, season 3 of Picard, what makes the Borg in season 3 of Picard overused or overplayed is because people use the Borg badly in other instances. And season 2 is a huge example of that. The thing that was driving me the most crazy the past week was all these people going, "Where's Jurati? Is Jurati gonna come save the day?" Like, no, that's horrible. That's a stupid storyline. That would look.
If that had happened, that would have killed the whole season.
Oh, okay. So listen, Hey, listen. Um, if you take you take a step back and you take an objective look at what the story of Picard season 3 was, it was that Picard had to, Terry Matalas said, what's the worst thing that could happen to Picard? It's that all these years he thought he was never going to have a family, he was never going to, the line would not go on, that he was the last of the Picards. What if he finally had a son and his son got assimilated by the Borg? And he, Picard, had to go back to the collective and face the Queen again because it was the only way to rescue his son. That was the story of season 3 of Star Trek Picard objectively. That's where it came from. It's just what is the biggest challenge that Picard could actually face. And because you have this ridiculous second season nonsense with Girardi Borg, Happy Borg nonsense, it sort of like contaminated that a little bit. It made that story harder to tell. And so what they had to do a little bit was have Shaw mock the whole thing and be like, forget all this weird crap over here. The real Borg are still out there. People weren't paying attention, is what it was, is they weren't paying attention to the characters outright said, forget about this, forget about this last season. Another show that Vance and I make fun of a lot is The Flash. Used to be a great show.
I've never seen it, but I've heard about The Flash.
And it's just off the rails. And one thing that started happening, and my wife told me that it was a response to there's too much violence on television mantra or whatever, is that The Flash would go up against some bad guy and would be like, have you ever thought about not being a bad guy? And then it would work. Like the villain would be like, you know what? I never thought about that. You make a really great point. I should turn over a new leaf and not be a bad guy. And where that totally misses the mark is that no villain, for lack of a better term, thinks they're a villain. We're all the hero of their own story. I mean, watch Gul Dukat. That's why Gul Dukat is the greatest villain in Star Trek, is because he truly believes he's the, to this day, is there a single statue of me on Bajor? No, you're literally Hitler, dude. And so to have this nonsense where Girardi is talking to the Borg Queen and she's like, have you ever thought about just like not assimilating people and like making happy Borgs? And she's like, well, that's a great idea. What? I couldn't handle it. I was like, is the Flash going to show up now? Like, what is this? And then they bring it full circle, and now Girardi's like a happy Borg queen, and it was like, what are you doing? The only thing that was good about it is they got rid of the ridiculous character. I mean, it was. And so now you have this situation where people were confused. They were literally confused. They were like, are the Borg our allies now? They thought Girardi had just like taken the place of the Borg queen in the collective, and that the collective was now good. People literally didn't even know what happened. It was so convoluted of a plot.
Yeah, so it was confusing when it came up, and I saw it was the Borg. I said, wait a minute, hold it. What's going on here? Yeah.
And so for like a week, people were like, where's Girardi? I hope Girardi shows up. And I'm like, Girardi ain't coming back. They clarified that at the beginning of the season that she wasn't coming. So that frustrated me. One other thing that I think I'll address is, people really were frustrated about the way the sets were lit. That was a big deal.
There has been a lot of people discussing that they think that it's gotten too dark, that it should be bright. Yeah, and I agree there too. I would never. I can't see, but I think they started. I want to say J.J. Abrams started that a little bit darkness, but I think I'm trying to think of when it actually started, when they started getting darker.
Yeah, it probably around Voyager.
Yeah.
But see, here's my thought on what they did there. Um, hide wrinkles and age spots.
Good one.
Again, that could have been it. That's an effective way to do it. I think what happened to a degree was two things.
I just say I don't care.
Yeah, they had to use the same sets for the Stargazer and the Titan,
Right.
right? So I think that part of that was they wanted to make the Stargazer and the Titan look different, and so they adopted a different lighting scheme for the Titan to differentiate it from the Stargazer. I've done the same thing in some of my films where I've used the same bridge to be three different ships, and so I'll light it a little differently.
Mhm.
So I think that was one. Two, he brought in a different director of photography this year. And I think that that was a statement of, okay, this show is different. I think that it was done on purpose to sort of just set a different tone. And they just went too far with it. I think that there are some other things that they could have done other than just making it that dark that would have had the same effect. If you look at the first two seasons of Picard, there's a very warm tone to the way that it's shot, and it went very cold this season, a very cold, more blue. And there's a thing in lighting called color temperature,
Mhm.
where you adjust lights, and it'll be more orange or more blue, and you're reflecting like an incandescent lamp versus daylight. And so you saw a lot more daylight style color temperature being used this season. Um, I think that they were just trying to give it a more cinematic look, and they probably just went too far with it. I think that what they should have done is say when the Titan was just in normal operations, it would have it be brightly lit, and then when you're in the space battles and red alert and all that kind of stuff, that's when you light it real dark and ominous. I mean, I'm talking trash here. That I had a comment on one of my films. It was like Avalon never met a TOS said it didn't want to light spooky. So I'm just as bad sometimes. But I think for like a normal flight mode, they could have lit it brighter, and then when they're the power's out or something, they could have lit it dark. Um, but they even did it on the TNG bridge, on the scenes in the TNG bridge. They did it there too, where they
Yeah,
where
I
they
noticed that. I did.
where it was noticeably darker than it was in Next Generation. Um, and they were even, and you can see in the BTS shots that they were turning off the dome and using, what we call a book light, where it's like you get a really big bounce board and a really powerful light source, and you bounce it off the bounce board, then through a layer of diffusion, and if you were get on the other side of the light, it looks like a book. It's
Yeah.
called a book light. They were using a lot of that on the TNG bridge, and so and the major source of light from on the bridge is the dome, and on a lot of those close-ups, they would turn the dome off, and they would just do a different sort of Hollywood lighting on the characters, and then you'd see on the wide shots, you'd see that the dome was on and be a little bit more high key in low contrast in the wide shots. So they did that. They did that because they felt that was the style they wanted to emulate. Look, you make an artistic choice sometimes and it doesn't work. And or you may think it's cool, but your fans don't like it. And that's happened to me plenty of times. And that's one thing that I want to bring up, by the way, is my frustration, because it's not just Star Trek. We've got a situation where we by and large, we really liked this season of Picard, and we've been telling the powers that be we want Star Trek Legacy. And tens of thousands of people have now signed a petition saying we want this show. And we got kind of a response today and it was some quotes from Terry Metalis that really frustrated me. And one of those quotes was, "Oh, well, they don't know if it's financially justified to add Star Trek Legacy because they're spending all this money on Starfleet Academy." And I'm like, you have tens of thousands of people petitioning you for Star Trek Legacy. Your ratings is through the roof on Picard season 3. And you're spending all your money on something that has no people petitioning for you to make it. No
Right.
one wants it. It came out of one episode of Discovery season 4. It was like the worst episode of the season. Somehow they looked at that and went, "Oh, that could be a show." It's
Thi-
just it's
This
become
isn't
so tone
Seinfeld.
deaf.
This isn't Seinfeld where walking down the street's a show.
It's
I
like,
know.
okay, going back to The Flash, for example. We live in a time period where social media gives us the ability to get solid feedback on something
Mhm.
pretty fast.
Real fast.
Okay? Do you know what The Flash The Flash got weird. It started off as a show that was just putting on a clinic in how to be a superhero show. And then it got weird. They switched producers and the show just became unwatchable.
Yeah, like
It, it,
Sequest.
I would watch it, yes, a lot like Sequest, in that, it used to be back in the day with The Flash, I would never miss an episode. I'd watch it 3 times. I don't even remember what the last episode was I watched, and Vance and I were doing reviews of them. And we couldn't do it anymore. It was just like, this is so bad, I can't watch this. And people started commenting on the CW Flash, Facebook page that, you're kind of jumping the shark here, with this show. You know what they did? They just started blocking people. They didn't listen. They didn't change the style of their writing. They didn't try to course correct. They just started blocking people, which is, like people who've been critical of modern Star Trek on social media. And before, I think some people got pre-blocked before season 3 of Picard came out or something. But it's like, and you look at fan films, for example. It's like, we're clearly making what we're doing for ourselves to a degree. Okay, we're telling the story we want to tell. There have been fan films where they don't leave the comments section where you can't comment. Mine, I've always left it on.
And I've always left that on mine too. I want to know.
And I did it. I went down a rabbit hole with the storyline where I thought, this is great storyline. This is really brilliant. And I got torn apart. I've like, oh, I think I'll do this great storyline about a reluctant captain, and people are just like, this guy sucks, and this dude could never be a captain, and he would have never gotten the job, and this guy's weak, and he's getting embarrassed, and why are you doing this? Nobody cares about this character, and a lot of really ugly stuff was said. And that the actor that played that character is a friend of mine, someone I really like and admire, but um, I that was a factor in changing what I was doing a little bit and going, well, maybe I should try something else, because it was like people weren't responding to it. They didn't think it was brilliant like I thought it was. I wrote it. I was sold this storyline, but I wrote it. I made it. It was my responsibility. And people didn't like it. I mean, and I don't get as much like negative feedback now. Like I think one of my favorites was um somebody called Agent of New Worlds like Two Broke Girls of the Galaxy or something like that. I just thought that was funny because it was accurate. But it's like, we have the ability to give feedback, and it's like fan filmmakers will respond, you know, somewhat to this to feedback. It's like, but those guys won't. and we're not even making money off of this.
No,
We're wasting our money doing this. You know what I
exactly,
mean?
exactly.
They have to make money, and it's like if can you imagine if they just totally blow off Legacy and they just make this Starfleet Academy thing and everyone like starts canceling their subscriptions? That's gonna hurt them. It's silly, And look, no one. No, I'm gonna echo Steve Shives a little bit. I don't have any issues with woke anything. That's not what's bothering me here. Okay, I I I'm for diversity and inclusion. All right. I've got an African American captain. I've got a lot of really great female characters. People have said, bring back Kirk or whatever. I'm like, Kirk's had enough screen time. I like Kirk. Kirk's had enough screen time. We've seen enough of him. It is time to start giving screen time to other kinds of people. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you still have to tell a good story. You still have to do that. And having this mindset of, well, we're going to tell you what your entertainment is, that's not a very good way to go. If anything, I think what season 3 of Picard demonstrated is that you can tell a great story with a diverse cast, because it's like it doesn't matter. It's like what I'll do is I'll say I'm going to write a science officer, I'm going to write a tactical officer, I'm going to write an engineer, and I'll just go cast the actor that I want to play that, whether that's a woman, whether that's a Hispanic person, whatever, Asian American, whatever. That's the character. They're an engineer, they're a captain, they're a scientist, and I don't let it be about that. Where you see something like Discovery fail isn't about, well, they had these people. That's not the issue. The issue was that you have this great, like, amazing possibility storyline. Oh, the burn. Oh my gosh, what caused this? It's a dude crying because of his mommy. What? We were like, oh, is it nefarious? Is it, some new enemy? Who was behind it? Is a dude crying because he wanted his mommy. Wait a minute, what? And it just kept being like that. They adopted this mystery box format that's like you can only really watch it once. Like Discovery season 2, I've never watched Discovery season 2 since it aired. And I remember back then everyone's like, "Who's the Red Angel?" And it's like, people are putting like Neelix on the Red Angel, and then of course this year it was like, "What's behind the red door?" And like Deanna Troy's opening the red door, and it's like Boimler naked. Like if anything, it's just fodder for the fans to make really great memes. But it's like there's no rewatchability to it. I just think that I don't think it's about diversity. I don't think that's the issue. I think that it's just they've gotten into a bad formula of storytelling. It was the Picard season 2 and Discovery season 4 were like kind of the same problem, in that there was like about 2 episodes worth of material told across 10. And I remember watching, I think I watched Time Zero parts 1 and 2 in TNG about the same time I was watching Picard season 2, and I was like, man, they told more story in 2 episodes than Picard did in 10.
Yeah, the thing I feel about today's writing in both music and in TVs is the imaginations that people are using. They're not trying to look for fresh stuff. They're trying to recycle a lot of the old stuff, and they're not doing it very well. The old plots and everything else. I mean, yeah, there's got to be something more than
Mm,
redoing. Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Prodigy is good. Prodigy is good.
great example of what we're talking about. But
Exactly.
anyway, I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah, I think that for lack of better justification or anything else, I think what's happened is we've become a society of letting our minds rest on watching the television instead of sitting down with a good book. You know, reading a book or being involved with, reading a book to me is very important for stimulating the mind. Getting outside is stimulating to the mind. Having an adventure is stimulating to the mind. I don't think people do that anymore. I think they just float and just go with the flow now. I don't think there's a lot of things. Well, I mean, people do think, but I don't think they get a lot of original ideas. And I mean, I could be wrong there, but it just seems like it to a degree.
Well, I think that you got this thing that people say. I don't know how true it is. That there are only like 6 stories in all of narrative storytelling, or maybe it's 7. I've kind of looked it up a few times, and some opinions bounce back between 6 and 7. Um, because like one great point about the Enterprise D, the Return of the Enterprise D, is like, oh, it's Battlestar Galactica. The older ship that they're using the older ship because it can't talk to the newer computers or whatever. Yeah, so what? It's it's there are only like 6 or 7 stories, and so you see a lot of that. That didn't bother me. It was just a deal of, hey, we found an excuse to bring it back that worked for me, that made sense. I was just glad that they did it. Yeah, yeah. I was giving Vance a hard time after all of that happened, and he didn't even realize it until I brought it up. But Vance has had this conspiracy theory for years that CBS steals their storylines from him, and yet
Oh, I agree.
there's lots of compelling evidence. But
look at the uniforms on Strange New Worlds and take a look at Axonar.
yeah, but it was funny because he the storyline for his fan films, Break Free and I think Resistance, are the basis of the whole Constar thing, is that a group of Starfleet officers has to board a museum ship and use it to rescue the survivors of a Borg attack because every other ship is in the fleet's been destroyed. And I'm like, they made the plot of his fan film in the Star Trek episode, and it's they had a mention in season 2 Picard of like USS Avalon. Are they doing that on purpose? Maybe. It's fun to believe that they are.
It's funny that in Strange New Worlds, the Kirk ship was the Farragut.
Yeah.
I went, interesting.
Or there was that shot in Strange New Worlds where the Enterprise was sort of, or not the Enterprise, but there was a Constitution class that had crashed on a ship, and it was like on its side, and it was like the same shot as Vance's film, and Martin Bennett did that meme where he was like, Starfleet Command needs you to find the difference between these 2 pictures, and Vance is like, it's the same pic. I did the Back to the Future one where it was like, hey, I've seen this one. How could you have seen it? It's brand new, So it's, but you know what? Here was the thing that I observed, because to me, bringing it back to fan films, and the beauty of it, the beauty of fan films to me, is that we build this universe for ourselves. And I've told Vance many times, I see Menard as just as big of a heroic Star Trek character. I put him in the same vein as Kirk, as Picard, as Cisco. To me, Menard is just as much a Star Trek character than as any of those characters. And we had all kinds of fun bringing up the similarities to the Constar episode, but I'm in that episode, by the way, the Constar episode. But that episode, Break Free, is about the USS Constar saving the survivors of Wolf 359 after the battle, all the people who ejected into escape pods. And I made the point to Vance, I bet you one of the people, at least in my head canon, one of the survivors rescued by the Constar on that day in that film was probably a dipshit from Chicago. And that's part of my headcanon. Captain Shaw was rescued by the Constar at Wolf 359. That's neat. We can do that. We have that that ability as fan filmmakers to fill in the gaps like that, and it makes it more special for us in a way.
Well, for want of a nail, which is a Farragut film, where they go, I don't know if you've seen it, where they go back to at the very end of that, spoiler here, George Washington is writing his memoirs after seeing them beam up, takes the knife and puts it into the apple. The beginning of the mirror universe.
And then they paid that off in The Crossing.
In The Crossing, yes, they did.
And then they're going to pay it off again in Farragut Forward.
Right.
So some neat stuff. I liked that. I thought that was a good payoff. And you know, we're visiting. Excuse me, my allergies are bad today. We're gonna be visiting with the Mirror Universe in Crisis on Infinite Excaliburs. So, and you know, we've got the Cosmic Stream. You know, I've created my own lore with this hub through which the entire multiverse flows, which is a thing my friend Earl talks about, the cosmic data stream. And it's like all of reality flows through the cosmic data stream. And it's this self-aware entity that is the tome of all knowledge and existence. And he would talk about that a lot. And so like, I thought it would be neat to put that in my fan films. And he was very sweet about it. Oh, Vance has got to go grab his numbers.
Oh, grab your numbers. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I have no idea what he means by that, but he's always like, "Gotta go grab my numbers."
My numbers. I don't know what it is either.
The meat whistle sounded, and now he's got to go grab his numbers. But so, you know, I integrated this idea of the cosmic stream or the cosmic data stream and made it, you know, for me. Well, what is that? I'll tell you what it is. It's the place they went to in where no one has gone before in Next Generation, where they went to this other realm that they left the universe and they were in this place where space, time, and thought were all one. They were on a higher plane of existence. To me, that's the cosmic stream. That's what it is. It's this otherworldly thing, this other dimension where things are different there. And it's like if you you've added a dimension outside of space and time, and it's like you can look down at all of it and none of it means anything because you're in this third plane, this 4th or 5th dimension or whatever it is. And I think I make even another TNG connection to it when we visit it again in the Once and Future Captain. So
well, that's we have that type of arcing that we're doing. As a matter of fact, without too much giving away, Romulan Ales Part 1 and 2 are also taking from canon and working something into that caused an effect that is part of that. And you know, I think it was this is talking about this particular one. Romulan Ales is a 2-parter, and this is something that I wanted to do back in the days of Dreadnought. In Anchors Away, Admiral Bennett looks at me when I'm getting the command back and says to me, we'll be having something possibly coming up in the future that deals with the Romulans, and Romulans are having a lot of problems, or there's something that's going on. And I said, okay, this is where I want a really good Romulan thing with Tim Errol and a couple other things involved. And Randy and Gary went out and they did a thing called the Hype, which was sort of their conception of what that discussion was. But what we have planned, and I sat down and talked to Vance about it. I said, yeah, I know we've got these two that you want to do together, but I want to put Romulan Ales, or I want to put a Romulan story into the middle of this. This is something I've wanted to do. I've been planning it. I need your help in writing it. We kicked it back and forth, and we came up with this concept that is just incredible. And he wrote the two scripts, and I swear, and I will say this to the day I die, these are the best two scripts he's ever written. And I'm looking forward to this. And they are going to be a little bit longer than normal.
It's all right.
Yeah. And we are going to be pulling all the stops off. I mean, I'm going to be doing fan films after these two, but I'm 70 years old. And, you know, I want a legacy film. And I think Romulan Ales is the legacy film that I want to be known for. So this is a very important project to me, and we've been doing a lot of pre-planning on it, and you know, we're probably going to have a small fundraiser, crowdfunding on it, because I'm going to have some SF shots. I mean, this one is a little bit lighter, but I guarantee you part two's got a lot of VFX in it, and from that point. But the thing is this is going to be my major project for probably in the next year and a half to do. So that's where
so that's where your focus is going to be. Do you know when you're going to be filming it? What your timetable for putting it out is?
What we'd like to do is I would like to have part one done by early next year, 2024. One of the problems I have is the sets here is in a garage.
Mm-hmm.
Summer is not a good time to shoot in a garage. Guaranteed. You want to lose weight? Come on down. Sit around. Be in a spot.
Believe me, I know what it's like. I've done it. I've shot in the summer.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. So we had some problems with Rebirth and getting that out when I wanted to. But we would have been started by now, I think, if it hadn't been for that. So fortunately, we were able to throw next week's in, which is called After the Fall that you're in. And that will be it for us for a little bit, except for maybe some crowdfunding things and stuff like that. I hope to start shooting sometime in the summer on some of the films or some of the scenes that we can do that don't require the bridge, or only require a couple of us in there in like my ready room, which we might be able to do. There is a possibility that we're going to be going down to Kingsland to shoot some of the engineering section down there for the Romulans. So that's back and forth on that. But I'm looking at hopefully early 2024, maybe January, February. I'd like to get it out sooner, but I am not going to rush this one.
Yeah.
Not going to rush this one.
You know what? That's great. I mean, make the film you want to make, and take the time to make it that you want to take to make it. As Jonathan Lane says, there are no fan film police that are going to come and arrest you if it takes a little longer. Wait until the fall. You know, pre-production is the most important phase of production. If you do your job well in pre-production, it makes shooting it easier, and if you do your job well in production, it makes editing it so much easier. And editing, like I said, when I was talking about getting focused and stuff earlier while shooting. Editing is, and normally I don't like editing, by the way. Like most of the time, like TV commercials, things, editing is kind of like my least favorite part for like, real work. I do it, I'm good at it, but it's like my least favorite part. With fan films, editing to me is where that magic happens. It's where it comes with, that's where the realization happens for me. This is coming together. So take your time and make it be the film that you want it to be. So we've gone over an hour and a half.
Really?
Yeah, we have. But I'm glad to hear that you've got such wonderful projects coming up. You've got a film coming out in a few days that I think people are really going to like. It was an honor to have you on our shoot, to have you be in our films. We do this because we love it. With regard to Avalon, we're still a little under budget. Well, we made our crowdfunding campaign goal today, which thank you to
Great,
everyone for that.
great,
We
great.
still we went over budget, and so we're still trying to come up with some money. So if anyone can hit up our GoFundMe, it's still there. I'm gonna probably be trying to find some other ways to drum up some extra money through my own talents. But it's an honor to do this. I hope that these next few films turn out to be the artistic I hope they are artistically fulfilling to you in the way that you're wanting them to be. I hope they bring peace and happiness to your heart. So that's at the end of the day, that's what you really want, is you want to do a project that just makes you happy and fulfills that creative need that you have in your heart. And I hope that that's what these films are for you. That's what I was trying to say before I tripped over myself. I want to thank everybody for coming. We've consistently had between 20 and 25 people here all night. Very grateful for the support that everyone gives Avalon Universe. So many of the people that have consistently been here all night are people that have helped us make this over the years. And so I'm grateful to all of you. Where we're at right now is that we probably have about one big shoot left to do. That's kind of a pickup shoot that I've put off, until we got past some other things. But so we've got one big shoot left to do, and that'll be off to a new adventure after that. So thanks to everyone for being here. I think that we're going to be doing, I got to check on it. We're going to be doing another live stream, I think either Wednesday of this week or Wednesday of next week. And that's going to be a big guest, somebody you wouldn't think would be on with us. So stay tuned. I might be making an announcement tomorrow about another live stream that's going to be crazy, but we're going to be doing more of these. I'm going to be trying to up the quality, in the presentation as we go along a little bit. I'm going to try and have some other fan filmmakers on with us. And I thought, what a great thing to do, to start with Frank, who's been around for a long time and has done a lot of great stuff. And he's just, he's a salt of the earth fan filmmaker is what he is. Just a guy you want to hang out with and make a fan film with, and is, just be a good time. And he's honest, good guy. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care now.
All right, everyone. So that'll be the end for tonight, but I'll let you know we got a big one coming, hopefully this Wednesday or next. So join us then.